So when it comes to wireless mice, we're used to seeing the battery life measured in months. However, for wireless keyboard, it's typically measured in days, until now. Because these new keyboards may be the new generation wireless keyboards that can last close to 6 months with one charge. Hey everyone, welcome back to Scoop Bar. Today we're looking at 3 keyboards, the Keychron Q6 Ultra, Q3 Ultra, and the V3 Ultra, and we're going to focus on the one thing that they all have in common, the software and the new wireless tech. Quick note before we get into it, this video is sponsored by Keychron, and as always, the take is mine, the good and the bad. You're going to hear both. Keychron did not have a chance to review this video, standard Scoop Bar deal. If you're new here, hello, my name is Jeff, and this channel runs as a passion project. Me and my friend V do this alongside our full-time jobs because we actually like this stuff. If you want to support that, hit subscribe and like. Affiliate links to all 3 boards are in the description. Costs you nothing, helps us out. Okay, let me give some context before we dive in. For most of the last, say, decade, going wireless on a mechanical keyboard meant you have to pay a tax. If you want features, you get poor battery life. Want okay battery life, you get slower polling. If you don't know what that is, it's just how often the keyboard tells your computer what you've pressed. Faster polling means snappier input, but also burns more battery. Want both? Not possible. Pick a wireless Keychron from 2 years ago. Q3 Max, Q6 Max, doesn't really matter. The spec sheet says 4,000 mAh battery, which sounds great. Real world performance is at around 100 hours with the lights off, maybe 180 if you're extremely careful. The polling, 1000 Hertz. Most of the wireless gaming keyboard shipping at 8K polling right now, dead in a day. Now, this wasn't a hardware problem. The batteries were fine. In fact, it's actually quite large. The wireless chips were fine. The thing that's actually eating your battery was the firmware called QMK, the software living on the keyboard itself, and nobody could fix it without changing the firmware ecosystem, which nobody did until now. Here's the part I think most reviewers skip. QMK isn't inefficient at wireless. It's actually structurally blocked from doing it well. The tech was never built for wireless. It was for wire connections only, and there are 2 reasons for it. First, licensing QMK is a GPL2, which is an open source license that says anything you build with it has to be open source too. Other people must be able to see your work and build on top of it if they want to. Think of it as a group project. Now, there is nothing inherently wrong with open source licensing. The problem is the wireless code from chip vendors Nordic, the company that makes most of the Bluetooth chips and keyboards, comes with a non-disclosure agreements and closed source licensing. In short, now you have a member in a group project that refuses to share their work even though they agreed to it. So what this means is you cannot legally combine the two, QMK firmware and Bluetooth chips. So manufacturers either ship questionably licensed versions of QMK, read that as they ignore the open source license they agree to, or they bolt on a workaround. The workaround is the second problem. There are 2 microcontrollers, the small chips that actually run the keyboard. One runs the QMK firmware, the other handles the wireless. And they have to talk to each other constantly, which adds latency and eats power. And it also means changing a key map usually required a wired connection. So if you want your F1 key to type your favorite emote, you gotta get that cable and plug in your wireless keyboard to change it because QMK is running on the non-wireless chip. That's why your QMK wireless Keychron or any other wireless mechanical keyboard for that matter, even with a massive 4,000 mAh battery, only got 180 hours or about 20 days. It wasn't bad engineering. It was an architecture problem. You cannot tune your way out of it. So enter ZMK. Stands for Zephyr Mechanical Keyboard, built on Zephyr, a real-time operating system designed for tiny battery-powered devices, which is completely different from QMK, where it was designed for wired non-battery devices. ZMK is MIT licensed, which is another open source license, but one that plays nice with closed source code, so Bluetooth code fits just fine. One chip runs everything. Power management is part of the architecture, not duct tape on later. Same hardware, same battery, same chip family, Same switches. The QMK Q3 Max got around 180 hours. The ZMK Q3 Ultra gets 660 hours at 8 times the polling rate. 5 to 6 times improvement on identical hardware. Same factory, same battery, same body. The only thing that changed was how the chips talk to each other. And just to clarify, when I say 660 hours of battery life, that's with the backlight turned off. If you have the backlight on, the battery life will drop dramatically because the battery savings that you're getting all comes from the wireless performance, not the backlight savings. Now, here's where it gets interesting. ZMK has had one big problem since day one. The setup experience was rough. To remap a key, you have to edit the configuration file, build firmware locally, and flash it manually. Basically, if you weren't a developer, you're basically not customizing your keyboard. Now, the community is working on a tool called ZMK Studio to fix this. It's coming along, but it's not quite there yet. Now, Keychron's answer to this is Keychron Launcher. Web app, no sketchy download, no install, open in Chrome or any Chromium-based browser, plug in or pair the keyboard, and you're remapping keys, building macros and shortcuts, setting per key RGB, picking color for every individual key to your heart's content. Snap actions for gamers where pressing one direction key cancels the opposite for fast strafing, adjustable debounce, the setting that filters accidental double presses, wireless sleep timeout, firmware updates pushed through the browser, Mac, Windows, Linux, even Chromebook, anything that runs Chromium. Here's the part that sold me on the long game. The launcher isn't a one-off ZMK configuration app. It runs Keychron's QMK boards. It runs their Hall effect boards, the magnetic switch lineup. It runs their mice. It's the one web app that rules them all, which means the launcher isn't going anywhere. It's the interface for everything they sell. That's the kind of platform commitment that makes me trust the stack is going to be there for years to come. One gripe: Chromium only. Firefox, Safari users, you're out of luck. I get it's annoying, but feel free to do what I do. I only use Chrome when I need to remap my keyboard. This might be a new record for Scoop Part video. We are deep into the video, and this is the first time we are now talking about the actual keyboard. And we got 3 boards for you today. The Q6 Ultra, full size, all aluminum, $239 USD, has a numpad, a knob, pretty much everything you will need in a keyboard. The Q3 Ultra, TKL, that's 10 keyless, full layout minus a numpad, all aluminum, same brain as the Q6 Ultra. The V3 Ultra TKL, plastic case, same brain again, half the price. And they all have this: ZMK firmware, AK polling, 660 battery life, silk palm switches. Palm's the plastic the switch is made from. It has a bit of a natural grit to it. Double gasket mount where the typing assembly sits on rubber pads for some soft flex. Think of them as pillows for your fingers as you type. Hot swap PCB means you can pull switches out and pop new ones in, no soldering needed. Screw in stabilizers, the part that sits under the bigger keys like spacebar that keep them level. Keychron Launcher, all identical across all 3 boards. The pricing ladder isn't about features, it's about case materials and size. Q is metal, V is plastic, 6 is full size, 3 is TKL, and that's it. Switches come in 3 flavors: red, which is a linear, 45 grams, smooth and quiet; brown, which is a tactile, 55 grams, has a small bump in the middle of a key press; banana, which is a heavier tactile, 57 grams with a longer stem, so the bottom out hits deeper. All silk palm, pre-lube, which is factory tuned, hot swappable 5-pins, so you can drop in any standard MX style switch later if you change your mind. Tight feel is good, genuinely good. The double gasket gives you that softness without going overcooked pasta soft, because The polycarbonate plate, the plastic plate beneath the switches, keeps the bottom out firm. It's cushioned but planted. The sound has that foamy, marbly character that you may have come across while doom scrolling on TikTok. And it sounds foamy because, well, there's a lot of foam in there, multiple layers, case foam, plate foam, dampening pads. The result is muted and warm, very on brand for a productivity board. The Silk Palm switches have actual scratch in them. The palm is gritty out of the gate, and Keychron didn't mask it with over lubing it. Personally, I like it. It gives the type feel some texture and some character. If you come in expecting butter smooth pre-lube linear switch, these aren't it. These have some personality in my opinion. Brown on the Q3, banana on the Q6. Brown is your standard 55 gram tactile bump. Banana is a heavier with a longer pole, so the bottom out hits harder and sounds deeper. Stabilizers are factory tuned, zero rattle out of the box, screwed directly onto the circuit board, which is the better way to mount them. If you ever want to swap them, you can, but honestly, you won't need to. The KSA keycaps. Now, they are a bit divisive. They're tall, sculpted, deep finger grooves. Once your hands settle, they feel precise and intentional. Coming off of Cherry Profile, which is the standard short keycap most enthusiasts use, it's quite an adjustment, and personally, I prefer Cherry every time. Same board, different caps. KSA versus Cherry. Profile changes the sound more than people give it credit for, but ultimately people probably should pick their keycap profile based on ergonomics. Metal or plastic? Now that's a question Keychron's pricing forces you to ask. What does 115 USD of aluminum actually buy you over the V3? Honest answer, less than the price cap suggests. The brain is identical, battery, polling, firmware, launcher access, switches, all the same. What you pay for is the weight, the way it feels under your hand, and a slightly different sound signature. For most people, I point them at the V3 first. You get the same actual breakthrough. ZMK, AK polling, 660 hours of battery life, the launcher experience for 115 USD. The Q3 is the right buy if you want a desk fixture you will keep for years and the metal feel matters to you. Both are correct answers. The V3 is the more honest one. The anodizing on the Q series, the die and sealed finish on aluminum works okay. It has a oily quality that I associate cheaper anodizing. It's functional, it's fine. At 239 USD, I expect the case to feel like a 239 USD board, and it doesn't quite feel that way. These are pre-builds, which just means they come built already, and treat them that way. They're not designed to be opened up. While hot swap works to change out switches, I don't ever really encourage anyone to change switches without supporting the back of the hot swap sockets to prevent them from popping out. And pulling the assembly apart to do that really got a good bit of learning curve, much steeper than your typical pre-builds because of all the physical switches and knobs that's equipped on this board. In fact, there are a good many custom mechanical keyboards that are way easier to take apart than this one. So the customization here lives in the software and not the hardware. Shine through is a bit weak. South-facing switches mean the LED inside each switch faces away from you, so the legends on the keycaps light up from the wrong side. Office workers who want backlight visibility in dim room will notice. North-facing switches will help. The trade-off is keycap clearance. The type angle is low and there are no adjustable feet, so if you prefer a steeper typing angle, you're kind of stuck. The Q series is light for full aluminum, which is not bad. Just don't expect a desk angle, which honestly suits better in an office setting. The board needs a higher power rated cable than your typical everyday USB-C. The included cable obviously works. If you swap for a fancier aftermarket one, check the specs. I do wish Keychron shipped their boards with a carrying case instead of a shoebox though. It's a pretty fancy shoebox, don't get me wrong, but it would just allow people to carry the board safely if they commute, and an easy storage solution when the board is not in use. This is the best wireless office board on the market right now, hands down. ZMK plus 660 hours of battery life, launcher plus multi-device Bluetooth plus open source firmware you can customize. Every piece of that pitch is targeted for the productivity user, not the custom mechanical enthusiast. Pair it with a carrying case if you commute. The wireless reliability and battery life makes these legitimate throw it in the bag boards. If you want something a bit more premium feeling for your office work, go with the Q series for the metal case. If you don't care about that, you can save a good chunk of change by going with the V series, which have the same performance as the fancier Q series. If you want a custom mech that you can take apart and tinker with, these are not that. I would recommend taking a look at something like Keys or KBD fans. ZMK is the future of wireless keyboards. Anyone selling you a wireless QMK board in 2026 is selling you a 5-year-old architecture in new clothes. And Keychron deserves credit for two things: being the first major manufacturer to ship ZMK at scale and pairing it with the best configuration app in the category. They have established a new standard for everyone. What I will love to see from them in the future: better ano on the Q series, north-facing switches on future models so the lighting can actually shine through for keycaps. And honestly, Q series build quality at V series pricing will be dope and devastating for the rest of the market. When ZMK Studio finally matures and competitors catch up, this will all be standard. Right now though, Keychron's the obvious pick. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much. Your support means a world to us. Love you all, and I'll see you in the next build.